Okay, we're live.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, the Pick Show here on Twitch. We have eschewed the typical medium of YouTube and podcast format in order to go live for you. And joining me, Will Brinson, of course, as you can see on your screen. Also, it's the Tan and White Show, the Best Bet Show. Kenny White, RJ White, and Pete Prisco. What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
Excellent.
I forgot my crown.
Oh, that's right. I promised on the preview tweet that Pete would be here to gloat and that RJ would be here to cry. So, Pete, you won the regular season title, the Best Bets title. You went 4-2 to close the season out. RJ went 2-4, I believe. Gloat.
I'm just, you know what? I had a good year. It's about damn time I had a good year. I wasn't doing any gloating at all until RJ started sending out tweets about 3 weeks ago when he closed with a flurry. So my only gloat right now is I got a crown being made up for being the king of the picks. How about that?
This is a lot like the time we played golf. Pete wasn't talking any smack until I ran my mouth to him. And then all of a sudden, you run your mouth to Pete. Like that, Pete's like one of those dudes who needs the chip. Like you want the chip on your shoulder. Like when RJ started opening his mouth, you got locked in on best bets and you came after RJ. RJ, do you feel the same way I do that you want to leave Pete in a parking lot to suffer whatever fate may come of him?
No, I want Pete to close well. I want everybody to do well. Pete's had a great year, and we said all along he was having a great year. He was like 38-9 or something, some 28-9, some crazy number earlier in the year, and he just continued it the whole year. He never kind of cooled off. So it's a great job by Pete. I'm also proud of Brinson going 7-1 in the last week.
Yeah,
50%.
What
so now
about
we're all
that?
50% or better. So it's a great week for the podcast. If Pete wins and I get 57.5 or 58% of my picks right, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'll take 58%.
It was a good year.
That's right. Yeah. Look, Pete finished 59% on the number with his NFL picks this season. That's an incredible run, Pete. And RJ 57.5. Kenny, a very robust 55.4. That probably wins you this contest 7 times out of 10, bare minimum. And yeah, I'm proud of myself. You can't let a bad season get you down. You got to fight back. 7-1 the final week to get to 55-1. I feel like that Seinfeld episode where it's like the even Steven. You know what I'm talking about, Kenny, where the $20 bill flies out the window and another shows right back up.
You know what's amazing, though, Brinson, is I did really well with these best bets, and I stink with my overall expert picks. And you're good with your expert picks.
Right. I know. It's crazy. My best bets stunk. I don't know which one's better, which one's worse. Just to wrap up the regular season, favorites went 44% against the spread, 113, 140, and 1. That tells you that the books probably did well this season. Over-unders were slightly to the over, 51%, 127, 123, and 1. Home teams finished 49% against the spread. We had touchdown favorites finished 48% against the spread. So if you faded the big chalk, then you did pretty well. And primetime favorites, a stunning 1931 against the spread. That is 38%. Kenny, is there anything we can take away from this from a macro perspective, big picture as we go into the playoffs? Does any of this matter now that we get to the postseason?
Yeah, I think so. With no fans in the stands, it showed, very little home field. That's what home field's all about. It's the fan level, the noise level, and it's shown in the officiating where home teams are not getting the calls that they used to get. And those 1 or 2 calls a game that they used to get, they're not there. And that's the way the playoffs are going to be. So I think we take it into the playoffs the same way as the visitors will have a very good opportunity for upsets.
Pete, slugging some Red Bull, are you?
No, yeah, well, that was sitting there, but I have something caught in my throat. I don't know what it is. Maybe I got a case of championitis.
Get checked out, get tested or something, buddy.
Well, we'll spread that around, and all of a sudden, everybody in the country will have it.
And you should spread the championitis around. That would be very beneficial.
That's what I mean.
For everybody in the country. Any thoughts? Any big picture thoughts, Pete, going to the playoffs?
You know what? I think it's amazing that we finished the year. I mean, I really do think it's incredible. The NFL deserves a ton of credit. They didn't have a bubble. They didn't have games canceled. They moved some around. They found out, and guys in the league have told me this, they can play Tuesday and Wednesday and get away with it. That might be coming. So I think it's a tribute to the league, but it's a tribute to the players themselves. I mean, yeah, there's been times when guys got COVID and then they moved it around and had to reschedule games. But the fact that they got them all in is absolutely. If you would have set odds before the season on getting all the games in a regular season without adding the 18th week, what would you have said?
Plus 300.
Yeah.
I actually had that conversation with someone like an hour ago. So I was ready with a number there, plus 300. Yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah, you know what, RJ, and nobody would have taken it. They would have bet against that.
Exactly. Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 outbreaks. Yeah, the Titans one, the Ravens one, and you would expect like maybe half the teams have to go through that.
And the only really team that it affected, believe it or not, was the Buffalo Bills.
And they overcame.
Right, but think about that. The Bills might be the 1 seed if it wasn't for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't them because remember, they were ready to play the Chiefs, and then the NFL rescheduled that game, and they had to switch while they were ready to play the Chiefs on a Thursday and had to play the Titans on a Tuesday and then come back on Sunday and play the Chiefs. And then the only other loss was the Hail Murray.
Are you sure that's good for the Bills, though? Do the Bills really want to stop playing? I know we'll talk about the Bills-Colts game in a second, but do the Bills really want to stop playing? I mean, what a friggin' statement from Buffalo and Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. You take the division in Week 15. It's like, all right, maybe they'll ease up going to the last 2 weeks of the season. No, they curb stomped the Patriots. Like, hey, it was like a mafia hit job. They're letting the Patriots know that this is how it works moving forward. And then, as if just to further send a message, they kicked the Dolphins out of the playoffs, reminding them that they are not on their level. I think there's a reason why the entire world right now believes the Bills are the best team in football, and I'd be a little nervous if I was a Bills fan, RJ.
And here's the other thing. They could have made it so that Miami was in, as it turned out.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a weird – wouldn't you rather play Miami than Indy?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So that tells you how arrogant, how confident they are, doesn't it?
Bunch of alpha males up there in Buffalo, fire in their belly. You like to see it. All right, let's get to the show. So we are doing a playoff system where we're not going to give out any bet. You can't just give out as many best bets as you want. It's just not as much fun. So we're going to try and help people bet throughout the playoffs to try and win you money, and we're going to compete in this as well. So here's how we're going to do it, because we didn't last year. A certain member of this podcast, well, it's actually the last 2 years we've had problems. 2 years ago, one of the members of the podcast welched on the $50 that he owes Prisco.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
His name is Nick Costas, and I will hunt him down, but that's a whole nother story. You know what? He owes me 50, but it's still 1/4 of what you owe me, you cheapskate.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. I'll pay you eventually. And
by the way, RJ, I gave Will Brinson the option. Either he sends it to me now, or he pays me when he sees me, and I slap him around for a little bit. So, what do you think his option is?
Take option B, so we can live stream it here on Twitch.
I want to see Will get slapped around.
Yeah, I know. People pay for that. People, we can sell subscriptions. So for the playoff best bets, what we're going to do is, and again, Pete was a regular season winner. We'll have a new winner for the playoffs. We're going to have each get $100 for each round, each of the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. So you can put $100, divvy it up however you want across the entire wild card weekend. We understand that some people will bet in real life, will bet more than $100, even more than $100 per game. But we wanted to make it so, just expand it. Like if Pete's like, I'm putting out $10 on this, and you want to tail Pete, you can just kind of do the math in your head. So we didn't want to be like, we got $10,000 to spend, and keep it simple. You can expand.
Yeah, like when I say put $10 on it, Brinson's usually putting 1,000 times that on his games. So he'll have 10 grand on it. Released.
Only unfortunately the Clemson game. So we each get $100 for the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. $100, $100, then $200 for the Super Bowl. The money resets each week, and we'll track it. So like if you do a parlay, like you can do a money line parlay, and if it's 2 dogs and it hits, you can win that, and you're up or down, whatever you are for each week. We didn't want to have last year. The situation was, I think Pete, you ran out of money because you went all in on the Packers in the NFC Championship game. They got curb stomped, and then you were out of money for the Super Bowl. So it kind of fizzled out a little bit. So that's how it's going to work. You guys can spend however you want. You can put $100 on the Colts money line if you want. You can put $1 on 100 different bets if you want. Whatever you want to do, and we will get to it and give them out as we go. We'll start with the Colts and the Bills. Colts at Bills. The Bills are -6.5. All odds via William Hill. Player props are open too. If you like a player prop, it's Thursdays. We're recording this 4:00, so they should be up there. A lot of them on William Hill because of COVID situations with various games. Not all of them are there. Mention it if you like it, but even if you don't bet on it. Colts and Bills -6.5. The over under 51 here. Pete, what do you think about this game? Or not, Pete?
I think Pete's frozen.
Pete is frozen. Kenny,
frozen.
Kenny,
Pete is frozen.
Game. What do you think about this game?
I love the game. I absolutely love it. Indianapolis is as good a football team as Buffalo is. Both sides of the football. Their offensive line has come together. The running game has come together late with Jonathan Taylor. The defense may be better than Buffalo. And, you mentioned in Buffalo, I was looking at their schedule. They beat up Miami and New England, who are really bad football teams. They're both well, New England's 6 points below average, and Miami is 3 points below average. And with Tua quarterbacking, they're 5 points below average. Denver below average. Pittsburgh, when they played them, was below average. San Francisco, all the injuries below average. Chargers below average. Arizona below average. Oh, there's Seattle, who's 2 points above average. They beat them. New England below average. Jets below average. Kansas City, above average team. 10 points above average at home, lost by 9. And you mentioned that maybe it was because of the scheduling, whatever. At Houston, 3 points above average, lost by 26. Vegas below average. The Rams above average. They beat them by 3, but we're lucky. There was a interference penalty. If it's called, they lose that game. They beat Seattle, and I don't like Seattle. I really don't. I never thought Seattle was any good. So I don't think they've beaten anybody all year long, and they're a 6.5 point favorite. They've never won a playoff game. I don't think they can beat this team.
Yeah, I don't want to criticize the Bills because Bills are beating everybody, and I don't know what you want them to do. You want them to reschedule games and play different teams? That's not how it works. They just got to play the teams that you're scheduled against. You know who hasn't looked good is the Colts. I mean, they struggled beating the Jaguars in a must-win game, and it took a late touchdown to run away with that. And that was a close game late. That Buffalo is number 1 in weighted DVOA heading into the playoffs. Nobody is hotter than this team. And weighted DVOA is taking into account the quality of the opponent. They say they're the number 1 team when you adjust for the quality of the opponent they're playing. The Buffalo's defense has also stepped up down the stretch. It's important with Indy running the ball well, like you said. Indy's D hasn't been good in the second half. They're routinely giving up around 400 yards. I don't think with the way Buffalo's played the last 4 or 5 weeks, once people have gotten healthy, that Indy is anywhere near Buffalo's defense right now. I think Buffalo can get out to an early lead, exploit the injuries that Indy has at tackle to get to Rivers, and stay ahead of the number here. So I would lean to Buffalo. I'm not going to put any money on the spread. I'll talk about props here in a minute when we move to that section. But if I was going to play this game, I'm playing Buffalo at the -6.5 before it gets to 7.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I'm playing the game, I'm playing Buffalo. The Colts defense early in the season was outstanding. I mean, it was, and then the last 5 weeks of the season hadn't been as good. So I understand what the Colts want to do. They're going to take Jonathan Taylor and want to pound the football, but the Bills have been better against the run the last 5 weeks of the season, and I think that's going to be a problem. And that's a great plan until you're down 14-0. So I'm with RJ on this one. My lean is to the Bills. I'm not putting any money on it. Of all the games, this is the one I'm staying away from, but my lean is to the Bills.
Yeah, I'm with Kenny. I like the Colts in this spot. And I understand what you're saying, Pete, that they've been better. The Bills have been better against the run. But I do think if there's a weakness of the Bills is that you can be physical on the interior and pound the ball in the run game. And that's what the Colts have been doing. Jonathan Taylor's been awesome. He finished 3rd in the league in rushing yards. He's had gaping holes, but he's run the ball really, really well. And the Colts offense for all but I think the second half against Pittsburgh, which was a meltdown, no doubt about it, but Big Ben completely changed how he's played all season long. And then for a quarter against Jacksonville has been really good. Philip Rivers has been fantastic. Now, the environment's not great. You've got to go up to Buffalo on a Saturday afternoon, but you're not going to get any inclement weather. It's just going to be cold as hell. And then conversely, I'm not saying that Josh Allen can't play against the zone defense, but they're going to force Josh Allen to make underneath throws, short throws, to pick up yardage and to not make mistakes. And so I think if there's a formula, and I'm not saying he can't do it again. I think he can. He's playing awesome. I just don't know that they're going to take bombs over top of the Colts the way they did the Dolphins. And I think if they do that, and Josh Allen does make mistakes. No, this is just a second playoff game, and he made a lot of mistakes in his first. There's no guarantee he's going to come out and just light the world on fire. Then I think Indianapolis can take advantage, flip the field, run downhill on Buffalo, and pull off this upset. So I actually have the Colts in a money line parlay. A little cheap money line parlay. I'm going to put $5 on the Colts and another team I'll tell you about in a few minutes. But I like the Colts to win the game, and I do agree. However, if Buffalo gets up 14-0, it's probably over. Because Phillip Rivers going to be chucking interceptions into that secondary, and it's a problem.
By the way, let the audience know you picked them to go to the Super Bowl, too.
I did pick the Colts to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you did?
So.
I'm going $20 on the Colts plus 6.5 because I don't think there's no possible way there's 6 points difference between these two teams. No possible way.
Okay. Any props for these games?
Yeah, I got the Bills team total over 30. It's an alternate prop because I believe the number is 28.5. But I'd say over 30 plus 105, $20 to win 21 on that plus 105. I'd just go ahead and play that juice. Buffalo's offense has been fantastic down the stretch. They have 3 straight games of 450 plus yards, 38 plus points. They've been doing well, a lot longer than just those 3 games. Obviously, they've been one of the hottest teams in the league. And like I said earlier, the Colts defense just hasn't been good in the second half of the season. They're routinely even up around 400 yards. And that Buffalo's defense has been playing well. So I'd rather than bet the regular over, not knowing how the Indy offense is going to perform with those tackles out, I'd rather just take the over on the Buffalo team total. So $20 on that alternate team total of over 30.
Ooh, $20 alternate team total 30. RJ with the exotic play out of the gate. Anything else, Pete? Props? Anything you like?
No, that's me. I kind of stayed away from this game.
Okay. Rock Ya-Sin, and by the way, I can't rescind my. This is sort of why I'm not hammering the Colts. It's like I'm a little worried DeForest Buckner's not going to play. If he doesn't play, that's a big problem for Indianapolis. Rock Ya-Sin already ruled out, so it will be interesting to see how Buffalo challenge it, like what they do with Xavier Rhodes and how they challenge him and all of that. But I'm a Colts backer here. I'm going to ride or die with the Indianapolis Colts. What could go wrong with Phillip Rivers in the playoffs? Rams at Seahawks. Seahawks minus 3.5. The over/under is 42.5. Pete.
Yeah, I just think this is going to be a game similar to what they played a couple weeks ago in Seattle. Good defenses, slugfest, tough, physical game. And remember, the Rams were going in to take a touchdown lead when Goff threw a terrible interception. I mean, awful. And to nobody. There was nobody there. And he didn't play that well even with the bad thumb, and they were still in the game. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think both offenses will have problems in this one. Russell Wilson, remember, when the line starts beating him up a little bit, he starts lowering those eyes. He has all kinds of issues. I think that plays out here as well. I don't know what the Rams are going to do offensively, so I'm leaning to the under. I'm putting $20 on the under in this game, and I have the Rams as part of a teaser that I will close in a bit. But I like this game to be low scoring.
I do think it could be low scoring. Seattle won that game 20-9 a few weeks back, but the Rams had 5 of the 7 longest drives in that game. Of those 5 drives, they had 3 field goals, 1 interception that you mentioned, and then 1 turnover on downs. I mean, they should have had more than 9 points, just the way that game was going. I think the offensive output with Walford at quarterback was consistent with the Rams last few weeks. They had about similar statistics, and that was in a do-or-die, must-win game, so it's not like, you're taking advantage of competition in Week 17. I mean, that was a game both sides had to win. So I don't know that he's necessarily a downgrade from Goff. I mean, you have to downgrade him in the power rating, but he just showed he could play in under a pressure game. So I think this line's going to get down to 3. If you can take it at 3.5, I would lean to 3.5 there. I'm not going to put any money on it in this. I'll tell you about a prop here in a second, but plus 3.5 I think is a pretty solid bet.
Yeah, when I look at the betting number, I feel like Seattle 3.5. They were 4.5. That's a Goff out number. I thought this game would be more around Seattle 1.5 if Goff played, but the total I thought should have been about 42 with Goff in the lineup. But without Goff in the lineup, I thought it should have been 37. So funny that the side is like a Goff in, but the total is a Goff in as 2, I guess, out basically to me. So I'm going under. I'm with Pete. I think it's a defensive football game. That's the way the Rams have played the entire year. It's the way Seattle has now played the last 6 or 7 weeks, going under in every single game. It's a defensive team. Pete Carroll's always been run first. Obviously, we saw him go pass first at the beginning of the year, but boy, they're run first now, and so are the Rams. So This will be a battle. The first one was 23-16, and the second one is, you guys mentioned there could have been more points, but if there was 10 more, that's still 39 in that game too. So I think the total's too high. $20 from me on the under.
I got 10 on the under as well. That's the 3 or 4. Not quite the kiss of death, but close. But Seattle, this is my concern with Seattle. First of all, the point spread 3.5 with John Walford on the other side, like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you go to an average bettor and be like, look at this spread, Russell Wilson versus John Walford in the playoffs, and all you have to do is lay 3.5 with Russell Wilson. I feel like 90% of the betting public would love to take Russell Wilson in that spot. It's hard to take John Walford here. I mean, it just is. But what Pete Carroll is going to do is, for as long as the Seahawks are around in the playoffs, is mess around by trying to establish the run early in these games. And he's going to pound it into a tough Rams defense. They're going to punt the ball a bunch. The Rams are going to be cautious because they have Walford. They don't want to turn it over, and they understand this is the field position. You get to 20 points, and you're probably winning type of game. And I think they'll be cautious too. A lot of running. They don't have the explosive runners in terms of Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. It's going to be Malcolm Brown and John Walford running the ball. In fact, I don't know if you can get this, but the two props I like, and they're not up on William Hill because we don't know whether Goff's going to play or not. But if Walford starts and plays, I love his over rushing yards up to 35.5. I think he gets to 40 easily. And I also think that if you can find some kind of bet where you can't have Lamar Jackson in the mix, or like, I wish you could bet on him being the highest rushing player in the NFC in wild card round, because I think Walford could lead the NFC guys in rushing yards. I don't know exactly how you get to that. That was on our bold predictions podcast, but I think this game goes way under. Not a ton of points. It is a low total. I understand that. I don't care. It's the playoffs. We're not going to see much. I like Walford over rushing yards as well. It's not up, so I won't bet it. But I got 10 on the under. Any props for you, RJ?
Yeah, I'm taking Russell Wilson under 1.5 pass touchdowns at plus 110. It's $10 on that to win 11. He has 40 touchdowns on the year, but in 2 games against the Rams combined, he had 1. And Seattle's now a conservative offense, like these guys have said. Russ has had 1 pass touchdown in 4 of the last 6 games. So, considering he's playing a great defense, and that's been their MO lately, I don't know that he's going to get to 2 here. And the Rams have allowed a league best 17 pass touchdowns all year. 2 plus twice in the last 10 games. So if just an average quarterback is getting there twice in the last 10 games, Russell Wilson's playing more like an average quarterback and not like the hellraiser that he was in the first half of the season. It just seems like plus 110 is a good price here on this, and that it's going to hit more often than 50%. So that's why I'm taking the under on Russ, 1.5 pass touchdowns.
Pete or Kenny, any props you like that you haven't seen that you might take in this spot?
No, I didn't do any props. I just did straight games, so I didn't even look at the props. But I do like RJ's. That's a good prop, RJ. I like that.
All right, let's move along to the Buccaneers at the Washington football team. Tom Brady, for the first time in his career, right? He's going to be on the road in the wild card round. I mean, it's pretty stunning, but it's not shocking because he is playing in the same division as the Saints. They dominated the Bucs in the regular season, along with losses to the Rams, the Chiefs, and the Bears. All those teams have good defensive lines. You know what, Pete? So does Washington, an 8-point dog at home, over under 45. Your thoughts on this game?
This is the ghost game. Remember, when Tom Brady starts seeing ghosts, he has all kinds of problems. We've seen it in the Super Bowl against the Giants a couple times. We saw it earlier this year against the Saints. When those good, quick inside pass rushers and outside pass rushers can control him, he starts ducking and feeling pressure and fanning pressure, and I think that's going to be the case here. I don't think Washington is going to win the game because I don't think they're good enough to score enough to win the game, but I think it's going to be close. I think they will keep it within the number, and so I got $20 on Washington. I also have them to close out the teaser with the Rams. So you give me the Rams and Washington in a teaser together for $20 too.
I would lean to Tampa, but I don't love it. I know everybody's going to be on Washington. It seems like the smart play to be on Washington considering those matchups. But Tampa's covered 4 of their last 5. The offense had 400 plus yards in 4 of those games. Washington scored 20 last week, but only had 248 yards. Field goal drives were like nothing. It was turnovers, and they kicked after going through nowhere on 3 downs. Without Alex Smith close to 100%, I just don't see the Washington moving the ball or scoring much. It's not like they can run it against this defense. This defense is excellent at defending the run. So Washington D, I don't think we'll be able to tee off on Brady in the second half because I think the Bucs are going to be up. And it's just pound with Ronald Jones. That's why I listened to the Bold Predictions podcast with Brinson, and he said John Walford this and that, and it was like, man, Ronald Jones is going to lead the NFC in rushing, because I just think that they're going to hand it to him in the second half and try to keep that lead. So I would think that Tampa with that defense can stay ahead. So I'm leaning 8. It's up to 9 by the time we're recording, so I don't think you can get 8. And I definitely wouldn't play it at 9. I mean, going higher than that. But if it's 8 on game day or under 9, I think you can tease it down and feel comfortable taking Tampa down under 3, and that would be the teaser I would look for in this game. So no bet on the side again. I'll have a prop again. I didn't love the sides on Saturday. I like them a little bit more on Sunday, but I'm going prop heavy on Saturday.
Yeah, I laid 8 on Tampa in the game, and I see the game playing out exactly how RJ said it's going to play out. Washington's offense is just so bad right now, and Alex Smith hobbled around. He put it on the line. He did what he had to do to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who had nobody in the lineup. Had a very weak team. Now he's up against a Tampa team that their defense is top 5. They'll figure a way out what they're going to do on offense. They know they have to run the ball at pass rushers. That's what they'll do. They'll be smart, quick passes, and they'll work field position, and they'll win the field position game, and then they'll punch a score in. But I only put in this contest a teaser with the Bucs, so that's my first leg of a $10 teaser. Didn't have much money left after I bet my straight bets, but their Bucs are a teaser for me.
Okay. Man, I'm surprised that y'all like the Buccaneers that much, because I just feel like the Washington fits the mold of a team that is going to pressure Tom Brady. And if you pressure him and it's nasty outside in DC, it just feels like a bad game for him. But I also feel like Washington's kind of a trendy underdog. As I mentioned, you look at the teams that they played, right? The teams they lost to. They have one win against a playoff team. It's Green Bay. And Green Bay, they have pass rushers on the edge, but they can't really – they get to you on the interior a little bit, but they just physically beat them up early on, that pick 6 by Aaron Rodgers. The other teams that they lost to in the playoffs, the Saints, the Rams, the Chiefs, and the Bears, all those teams can get after you without blitzing you, just like Washington can. They're going to get interior pressure on Tom Brady and make him uncomfortable. If you pressure Tom Brady without blitzing him, and this is my concern for the Bucs. Like, I think if they come out and have – Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin running these short little routes that Tom Brady can get the ball out quickly, they'll obliterate the Washington. But if they try and run Bruce Arians' offense and try and get vertical on Washington, I think there'll be a chance for Chase Young to actually tee off of Tom Brady. And, I mean, look, the Bucs offensive line is good, but has Bruce Arians ever changed his philosophy for anybody in the history of his coaching tenure?
No.
He runs what he's going to run. And this is a bad team to run it against. And that's my concern. If that changes and I see them come out and they're like whipping it around short and quick and getting it out and picking up yak with those guys, then I'll get off Washington live. But I tend to like Washington as a live dog. And that's my other money line parlay. $5 on Washington and the Colts to win outright. Pays off huge. I didn't actually look it up, but it pays off enormous. And I like the under in this spot as well. I have $10 on the under at 45. I just don't think there's not going to be scoring in this. It's going to be Washington. I think 17-10 is what we're looking at. One of these teams wins that way. Okay, if you are watching us, we will continue this podcast. If you're watching on Twitch, if you are
let me get one more bet in. What are you doing? You're trying to cut me off on my prop.
Wow.
What are you doing here?
When you mentioned Ronald Jones.
Trying to win by cheating. Look at this. Yeah, I got one more bet in this game. I'm going under 10.5 receiving yards for Ronald Jones, the guy I think is going to dominate on the ground. Minus 115, betting 23 to 120. Washington allows the 4th fewest receiving yards to running backs in the league, and Tampa doesn't use Jones as a receiver. 0 or 1 catch in the last 5 games, under 10 yards in 7 of his last 9, I believe. So it should be a game where Tampa's up in the second half, like I said, and running the ball or play actioning with Jones, and they're not throwing him the ball. So I think that's a great prop to get your money down on. So that's my biggest bet of Saturday right there, 23 to 120.
Wow.
RJ's doing it right. He's using the juice, laying 23 to win 20 on a minus 115. Because my first bet, I thought, you know what? I got like the Colts $20. Did I put down 22? But I didn't get $110 to cover the juice. I only got 100. So, you know what? I just said I'm going to keep all my figures even, so I can add them up easily to 100. But I guess my 20 is going to win $18.20.
And for the record, I looked it up on williamhill.com/us/nj/bet/football. Must be 18 to qualify, or something like that. $5 to win $75.25. The Colts in Washington went outright, and somebody is up there on the leaderboard. You guys may have to do crazy parlays and stuff.
What's he saying to that $5, Pete?
See ya.
There's a gif out there of Pete going, "See ya." That like I've saved to my phone 17 times, and I cannot tell you how often I use it.
See ya.
NC State had a quarterback transfer, and I'm on this thread with a bunch of State guys, and I just fired Pete in there going, "See ya." Anyway, we will see you if you're listening to the podcast right after the break. If you're watching live, we're going to continue on to make picks here on the Twitch, the Pick Six Podcast Show on Twitch. Okay, so the next game on the schedule. Oh boy, we're big time revenge spot here, Pete. The Ravens -3.5 at the Titans, over under 54.5. Lamar Jackson, I don't know if you've heard this, has never won a playoff game and has lost the last two matchups to the Titans. I'm not sure if anybody's mentioned that this week at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on the pressure is on him. This is a game for him, and I think he's going to play well. I mean, how can you not play well against that Tennessee defense? They are awful. I think this is a game for Lamar Jackson. We know it's run, but I think he's going to be able to throw some too in this game. And, he put up big numbers in that playoff loss last year, and a lot of it came later in the game, but he did put up big numbers. This defense in Tennessee is way worse than the one he faced in that game. I think they're going to have all kinds of problems stopping him. The two, it's a rush game, right? You got the leading rushing team in the league in the Ravens, and you got the leading rusher in the league in Derrick Henry. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for Lamar Jackson to quiet a lot of his critics and win his first playoff game. And I will lay the 3.5 points.
How much you putting on it, Pete? I think you got to bet on
$20. $20 on the Ravens. One of my best bets.
Yeah, I think Pete is exactly right. I got 25 on it, 3.5 at plus 100. Tennessee won the first game in overtime, but Baltimore's defense didn't have Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams. I mean, that's a huge difference considering you're trying to stop a heavy run team here. And Baltimore also had a bunch of positive COVID tests coming out of the game. So maybe that game day, the roster wasn't at its best. Who knows how it takes a little while for those tests to pop up. So Baltimore has been on fire, though, lately. They played a bunch of easy opponents, but, I mean, they're just destroying people on the ground, and their defense is playing well. And Pete's right. Tennessee's defense is awful, allowed 430 plus yards to all of their last 5 opponents except Jacksonville. And I think the 4 of us could probably hold Jacksonville under 430 yards. So they're not a tough defense to stop. So Baltimore, you got the revenge angle. Of course, they're ready for revenge. You say Lamar Jackson has never won a playoff game. And I can't believe in Lamar Jackson's storied career of 15 years or however long it's been that he's never had a playoff game. It's definitely a narrative I would be playing up right now because what is he now, 35, 36? When is he ever going to win a playoff game? So you can just throw that narrative out the window. That's Will Brinson living in Narrativeville. I love the Ravens to run away with it here. This is probably my best favorite spread of the weekend. I haven't put it up on Sportsline yet because I think it might tick to 3, and if it gets to 3, I am all over Baltimore.
I'm taking Tennessee plus the 3.5 for $30. This will be my biggest lead. Tennessee's defense is not that bad. So
it's terrible.
Think what you want. It's your eyeball test thinks they're terrible, but they're not. They're not that terrible. Then they'll come to play, and they got the best running game in football. These are very even football teams. Lamar Jackson has done nothing. At the end he beat Cleveland, Jacksonville, the Giants, and Cincinnati, and before that though he was horrendous. He's been an average NFL quarterback all year long, and that's all he is. He had an MVP year last year, and then he couldn't win his playoff game. Now he's an average NFL quarterback, and he still can't win his playoff game. So give me Tennessee plus the 3.5. I won't even need him.
Oh, man. So, RJ, you're saying that I'm like running this narrative train. That could not be further from the truth. And by the way, Kenny, Tennessee, 29th in defensive DVOA. They suck. They're not good on defense. And I remember back to, speaking of the Lamar Jackson narrative train, I think this is sort of undersold because it's been a while since we had somebody this happened to. But once upon a time, People said that Matt Ryan couldn't win a playoff game, and people said that Aaron Rodgers couldn't win a playoff game. This is what people do when quarterbacks start 0-2 or 0-3 in the playoffs in their career. They start to say they can't win the big game. People said Peyton Manning couldn't win a Super Bowl. That's some dumb crap right there. I mean, and if Josh Allen loses to the Colts on Saturday, there will be people who ask, can Josh Allen win a playoff game? Of course he can. It's ridiculous. It's narrative street. Lamar Jackson ran into 2 hot wild card teams the last 2 years, and he's more developed as a passer now. He's still not completely an elite passer, but it doesn't matter. Tennessee's defense stinks, and they're going to carve him up. I think Baltimore is going to win big. I'm going to hedge a little bit against it because I like the over more at 54.5. I got 20 on the over, but I am also going to put, I got $30 on the Ravens Titans over. I think this is a score fest. And I think regardless of who gets up in this game, you can end up seeing a ton of points in a comeback effort. I saw that Warren Sharp pointed this out. The last 20 drives that Baltimore had in Tennessee in regulation, Baltimore's last 20 drives against Tennessee in regulation over those 2 losses. Only 3 punts, 8 turnovers, including turnovers on down, 8 red zone trips, and they went 2 of 8 in the red zone. They will be better in the red zone this time around. They will have more explosive plays. Hollywood Brown's actually showing up for once this year, and I think that we'll see Lamar Jackson chunking the ball down the field and Tennessee forced to come back. Game goes way over. I like Baltimore to win and to cover as well. And then I'm going to put $20 on Lamar Jackson over rush yards at 70.5. It is up there at William Hill. That is a huge number. It doesn't matter. Dude is running wild at the moment. I think he gets to 100. I would bet the alternate numbers up to 99. And I think that you can get some serious cash there watching Lamar Jackson run.
Hey, Kenny, Mike Vrabel wouldn't admit he has a good defense.
I got him ranked. I have him ranked 20th in the NFL.
Okay.
So they're below average. They're below average.
They're way below average.
You know what? So were the Chiefs last year.
They had 4 sacks last week to get to 19. If they didn't get those sacks last week, they would have been the lowest, I think, playoff sack team in like 30 years.
So if Derrick Henry rushes 35 times for 250 yards, who do you think wins the game?
But we're talking about the defense. He doesn't play defense.
I know, because the defense won't have to be on the field because they're going to control the ball on the ground.
Now, I do think that this is similar to the game last year in the playoffs, where if you're live betting the game, you're going to try and live bet the game. Like if you have Baltimore -3 and Tennessee gets up 14-0, try and fight. Don't double down on Baltimore. Like if Tennessee gets a big lead and they get downhill with Derrick Henry, he's going to pop off big runs and it's going to be tough. But Pete, and you said this before the game last year, before the playoff game. And this is a point that I hammered home and gave you credit everywhere I hammered it home. But Dean Pease was the architect of the defense on the Ravens designed to stop Colin Kaepernick and Greg Roman's offense in San Francisco in that Super Bowl. And then they flipped and Pease was with the Titans and Roman was with the Ravens. And he just knows how to stop him. And they don't have that this year, do they?
They're worse. They're worse on defense. The defense isn't close to being what it was a year ago. I mean, that's the biggest difference in the game. But their defense.
If your defense is worse, like they're not going to be able to do the same thing they did to them last year in terms of making Lamar, like shutting down the middle, shutting down the run.
And RJ made a good point about the Ravens. No Williams and no Campbell the last time, and everybody had COVID.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm with RJ. I think this is actually pretty easy.
Yeah, I like the Ravens too. Any props from you guys at all?
I didn't put anything on it. You said you like the Lamar over on his rushing yards. I actually like it better over on his passing yards. 1.5 passing yards at +130. That he went over that total. Pass touchdown. Sorry,
Okay.
1.5 pass touchdowns. Went over that total in the last 3 games, even with his low yardage totals. He wasn't throwing for a lot of rush yards, but once they got down there, he was throwing touchdowns. And he's got multiple touchdowns in 9 of 16 on the year. Tennessee's defense has given up the second most pass touchdowns in the NFL, averaging over 2 per game. I don't know why this number is +130. I think just the expectation that Baltimore is just going to run. But that's not what they're doing near the goal line. You know, he's throwing some touchdowns. So I would take Lamar over 1.5 pass touchdowns at +130. If I had anything left over to bet, I probably would have bet that.
Ooh, all right, I like it. It's good money. Might be free money. If you like free money, we got an opportunity to give you some free money. CBS Sports is a new way for you to up the action in the postseason with the playoff pick'em. Whether you want to pick the games for cash or compete against friends, we have you covered with 2 easy ways to play. First, enter the playoff challenge for your chance to win $5,000. All you need to do is pick the winners, and the champ walks away with $5,000 in free cash. It's free cash delivered to your house by Pete Prisco. Second, get your friends, family, and coworkers or anybody that loves football involved by creating a fully customizable private pool. You'll be in full control with options to choose the matchups you want to include, how to pick, scoring, and more. Best of all, the playoff pick'em is totally free. So visit cbssports.com/playoff or download the CBS Sports app now to start your pool and play for $5,000. Bears at the Saints. Saints are -10 now. This line has climbed. The Saints have got to double digits. The over-under is 47 here, Pete.
Yeah, I think this line is too bloated. And that we've seen this formula play out for the Saints before. NFC North team comes to town. You're a heavy favorite, and they lost last year to the Vikings. I just think that the Bears will keep it close with their defense. I know the Saints will have Kamara back. That's a big part of what they do on offense, but they're still limited in terms of speed on the outside. They don't run by people. I think they're going to have problems in the passing game here, stretching the field. And I just think that the defense in Chicago will keep them close. Look, I'm not buying into all the Trubisky hype. I know he played against 4 really bad teams before last week, but I think the defense will keep him in the game. And if you're going to give me 10 points, I'm taking 10. I'll take the Bears plus the 10 for $20.
I couldn't take either side of the spread. I don't want to lay 10 with the Saints right now. They're a very, Jekyll and Hyde team. I don't want to trust Chicago against a team that can be great when it's playing at its top. So I would lean to the under 47. Chicago beat up some awful defenses down the stretch. That New Orleans defense, I was kind of fading New Orleans down the stretch because that defense didn't look good. And then all of a sudden I put Panthers as one of my best bets to close the season, trying to stay ahead of Pete. And that defense showed up and they just played their butts off. So I think they finally found themselves. If they carry that over here, this game's going to go under. Chicago has a good red zone defense. They can slow New Orleans down and hold them to field goals. I mean, they had 6 combined field goals between the two teams in their earlier meeting this season. That game would have gone under this total if not for overtime. It was 23-23 going into overtime. So I would lean to the under here. Don't love the spread either way. If I had to pick it, I'd go with the Bears just because 10's a huge number in the playoffs, but I'm staying away from this.
Well, that tends definitely say Michael Thomas in and Alvin Kamara in, and I kind of feel the same way. I don't want to lay 10 against a really good defense, and I don't want to take the 10 because if the Saints are on, the Saints could be the best team in the NFL. So I'm gonna pass on the game. My numbers are right there, but I lean a little bit to the under because of the solid defense on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at this game, I mean, it's hard to 10 is just too much. It's just way too many points. Could the Saints defense pick off Mitchell Trubisky twice, shut down David Montgomery, and win by 21? Absolutely. But the last time the Saints won a playoff game, home or away, by double digits was January 7th, 2012. So after the 2011 season, when they took Matthew Stafford and the Lions to the woodshed and they beat him 45-28. Since then, they have played 7 playoff games, and every single one has been within 1 score. The Saints team doesn't. They're very good. They're very well balanced. The way that they operate on offense isn't as explosive and dynamic as it used to be. And when they go up against a decent defense in the playoffs, we see them typically not score as many points. I mean, they have scored 20, 20, 23, 20 twice, 23, 31, 24, 26, 15 since that Lions game. And 3 of those games were away and 4 of those games were at home. I mean, this is just not a team that's going to put up a ton of points against a Bears defense. They're going to play ball control. They're going to dink and dunk it. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to go vertical. Brees has broken ribs. They're going to try and protect him and get the ball out quickly. I love the under in this spot. So I'm going to put what did I put on the 25 on the under 47 here. So a quarter of my bankroll on the under 47. I lean towards the Bears in a big way. And I think the Bears are kind of a live dog here. So I mean, I know they're 10-point dogs, but if the Saints kind of mess around and Trubisky makes something happen with his legs, I don't know. I can see this getting weird. Any props for you guys in these games?
Well, they didn't have any props posted until just now. They just put Trubisky and Montgomery props up. So I've been looking at those. Trubisky's passing yards total is 245.5. He's been, over that, kind of barely over that in 5 of his last 6. So it's not a great number, and he's played a lot of bad defenses in that stretch. I mean, Detroit, Houston, Jacksonville, you're gonna go over a lot of those times. But the key thing there is, even though playing those bad defenses, they let him throw the ball. He's got 34 attempts, 33 attempts, 35 attempts, 42 attempts in 4 of his last 5 games, and then 46 before that. And that was when he took back over the starting job. So I think if they're going to let him throw the ball here, and they need to against the Saints team that can score a bunch of points, he could probably creep over that yardage total. So I would lean to that over. But yeah, that's really the only thing I'm seeing right now, because they just haven't posted the full slate of props yet.
Yeah, good point. Kamara, is Kamara, Pete, you said is Kamara definitely in?
Yeah, he's not definitely in, but they say he's going to play.
Okay, so we expect him to play.
I mean, he's watching practice every day did you see with a video conference? I don't know, but yeah, he's
like running. He's like doing a walk.
He's cleared to play.
Doesn't he have to test negative by a certain point to be able to play?
I think he's got negative.
Yeah, but he's got till he can play. If the game was Saturday, he wouldn't be in.
Yeah, but it's Sunday, so he should be good to go. He's likely to play, and Michael Thomas is back at practice, so they should be full strength in terms of their weapons. Trubisky needs to average 6.2 yards per attempt if he throws 40 times to get that 245 number. So don't hate that either, especially if they're chasing points. If the Saints are up big, he'll definitely get over that number. Browns at Steelers. Oh yeah, what is only the Browns would God do this to, right? Get in the playoffs for the first time in decades. And surprise, your coach has got he's got a virus that's sweeping the entire globe, and he won't be able to coach, and the NFL won't let him coach from home. And so does your Pro Bowl interior offensive lineman. The Steelers the line was actually 4, and then it went off the board. It came back at 6 in case Kevin Stefanski was wondering what his worth is to the point spread, Pete. Steelers -6, over under 47.5.
I really believe, and I'm in the minority on this probably, that Kevin Stefanski will have everything. The hay will be in the barn for Sunday. He's coaching this team this week. He's just not around. The game plan will be his. The install will be his. The script will be his. Now it's just up to Alex Van Pelt to call the plays on the script in that time. And then when they get off the script, Alex Van Pelt's going to have a little bit of feel. And he's a former quarterback in this league, and he's called plays before. So I don't think it's going to be as big an issue. The issue will be, you mentioned Joel Bitonio's not there. That's a big issue. This offensive line is the strength of this team. Tackle to tackle, they might have been the best in the league this year. And they're not there. He's not there. That's a big loss for them against the Steelers. Even if Stefanski was coaching on the sideline, I think the Steelers are the play here. I think they're the better team. I think they found something in that last game against the Colts before they sat everybody in the second half. They drove the ball. I think their offensive design has been terrible all year long. I've said it a bunch of times on this podcast. I think they've done a bad job with their receivers. Deontay Johnson can go. I think he goes in this game and gets down the field, hits some big shots. Roethlisberger will hit him. I think the Steelers are the play. I'll take $20 on the Steelers -6.
I'm basically betting the same thing. It's a -110 line, so I got 22 to win 20 to close me out for Pittsburgh -6. I mean, even with the move based on COVID news, I would lay it up to 7. I don't think it gets there. It looks like it's settled at 6, and I think it could come back if we see some positive news coming back about how Stefanski, he's like Pete is saying, it's not going to affect the preparation for the game. Since that number was 4, it could come back down. You can get a better value. If this would have been 4, when we did this, I would have loved it. And if I could wait, I would love it even more, but we got to lock this in here. Cleveland's in an awful spot, coming off a week of limited practices, COVID news, right into another week of limited practices. Can't do everything you want to do. We saw how the coaching losses affected Detroit. I mean, I know that Stefanski's going to be able to prep this team, but that was a 10-point line and they lost by 40. So I don't expect it to be that bad, but it's certainly a situation that's on the table that could happen. Pittsburgh finally able to rest some key players. They didn't have a break all year, really. They got their bye moved while they were doing preparation. They got their mini bye moved because of the Ravens game, and they finally got that rest. Despite having Rudolph at quarterback in that game, the offense had the most yards since week 2. I mean, maybe they fixed their issues. Maybe it was a sense of their game plan and what they were trying to do. Seemed like Ben flipped a switch in the second half of that Indy game, and then they carried it over with the backup quarterback. That Pittsburgh defense held Cleveland to 220 yards when they were trying earlier in the year, not this last game, and it was a blowout win. big for Cleveland to make the playoffs. I think it's kind of a weight off your shoulders that you finally got this team back to the playoffs. There's big things to come. Too much to overcome in this game. I think Pittsburgh's going to roll. I think Pete has that right.
Real quick on the Lions. The Lions could have had Lombardi and Mike and Don Shula in their prime coaching that team, and they still would have won. They just might not have quit at the end like they did in that game. And didn't the Alabama beat LSU the week that Nick Saban was on the sideline? They blew him out, right? I mean, look, players play, coaches, they put their plan in and then they go coach.
I mean, Alabama's got more NFL caliber pros than the Lions do right now, I think, on their roster.
Stop it.
Yeah, impossible. I don't think there's a big deal with Stefanski not being in there. I didn't add anything to the line because players are going to play and he's going to have his game plan. So Alex Van Pelt's going to have to make a couple of extra calls in this game that he hasn't been used to, but he was a quarterback as mentioned. Bettino is a point drop off to the offensive line and a point and a quarter to the team. That hurts him a little bit, but I think Pittsburgh wins the game. I think it could be as close as this last game, though. So I used Pittsburgh in my teaser to close it off. I got the Bucs -2, Steelers at Pick'em for a $10 teaser. And then my last $20 bet, I'm under in this game, under 47.5. And the biggest reason, these two teams have been preparing for each other's offense for 2 straight weeks now. And in the NFL, when you have 2 weeks to really prepare for the same offense, it's much easier to slow those offenses down and shut them down. I think Pittsburgh's defense shuts down Cleveland's offense all day long. And Cleveland's going to have a little success too. So Pittsburgh cannot run the football, and Big Ben has not been very good the last 6 weeks of the year. So under 47.5 for me.
Yeah, I don't mind that under. So when the COVID news broke, I put a large bet on the Steelers, thinking it was going to pop back up at like Steelers -10. I could get myself a nice little 5-point window in an NFL game, which you take 100% of the time, right? Well, that window never happened. I think I'm just going to ride the Steelers -5 at this point. And if I need to, if I'm panicked, I'll buy back out or something. I don't know if it creeps back down. I think one of the things that's a little undersold here is how badly Ben Roethlisberger has destroyed the Cleveland Browns throughout the entirety of his career. They played Mason Rudolph last week, and that game was close. I mean, I realized that, it felt like the Browns were in control the whole time, but the Steelers had looks to win that game. Big Ben is 24-2-1 against the Browns in his career, completing 63% of his passes, averages 241 yards per game. Not mind blowing. They've been blowing him out a bunch. 41 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. The Browns passed him in the draft. He hates him for it. He holds a grudge against it, and he lights him up. He likes to blow up these Ohio teams, and that's good for him. I respect spite. I love spite.
Hey, Will, I got to run. I got a Pete versus the book segment coming up.
Okay. All right, Kenny's going to bounce out of here. I'm sure Debo will.
You do? Because I'm not on it.
No, I just thought I'd worry you a little bit. No, I got another show I got to head to.
Okay. All right, Kenny.
All right, guys. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
I'm sure our excellent producers will figure out what to do with that.
Brinson, by the way, let's not gloss over what you said, that Alabama has more NFL players than the Lions.
I don't mean that. Let me ask you this. Would the Patriots trade their – now we're giant heads on the screen. I like the 4-box better. Would the Patriots trade their wide receiver group for Alabama's wide receiver group?
Well, I mean, is Waddle healthy?
Yeah, no. You get everybody. Like you send Jacoby Myers and Edelman and everybody.
I mean, here's the thing. Those guys have done it in the NFL. These guys you're projecting.
I'm just asking, would they trade it? Because I think they would.
They would consider it.
I think they would do it in a heartbeat. Do you get Devontae Smith and Waddle? I'm not saying they'd be upgrades immediately. I'm just saying they'd be better over the long term.
Let's put it this way. Will either one of them be better than Edelman was in his career?
It's a long shot that one of them will outperform Edelman's total stats.
Right. So.
Okay. So I'm all for
I hate those arguments, by the way. The NFL player, if they play.
Any NFL team would always murder any college.
The bad guys on NFL teams are better than most of the guys on the college national champion. That's the difference.
I don't have a bet on Browns Steelers at all. Huh, interesting. But I do have a personal bet on the Steelers. So I like y'all rolling with the Steelers. And everybody sort of likes the Steelers. I just think this is a possible spot. You're asking Baker, and if the Browns get down and the Steelers have a double-digit lead and Baker Mayfield has to throw a bunch, this turns into an ugly, ugly affair for the Cleveland Browns, an ugly way to close your season. I think
All
everybody.
right, I got to ask this question to you two both. There's always a team that makes a run in the playoffs every year that nobody sees coming. Who is it?
That's tough.
I'll answer because I mean, you know my answer though.
Go for it.
It's the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts aren't beating the Bills.
Colts are beating the Bills and the Chiefs. And then
No.
the Steelers, and then the.
I mean, you see, most people would say the Bucs or the Ravens because
I
they're
think the Ravens are a good choice too.
but they're capable. I mean, the candidates are the Rams.
Yeah, I think that's my pick is the Rams with that defense. You know, they could control Seattle in this game. I think they could win the game. I took them plus
because
3.5.
even if Washington pulled off the upset, they're not going to Green Bay and beating the Packers. Whereas the Rams, if they win, they would go play
if
the Packers.
The Rams are the 6th seed. So if
they have to go play the Packers too,
unless the Bears also won.
Right.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if it's probably
okay. If the Bears won and the Rams won, then the Bears would go to
the
Green
Packers,
Bay, and
the Rams would go to
Tampa.
Is that right? Yeah, to Tampa.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Rams
assume or Washington.
The Rams won at Tampa.
Sure. Well, what if Washington, Chicago, and the Rams all win? Then you have total chaos and Green Bay rolling to the playoffs.
And those who had big bucks on Green Bay to win it all probably cash in their bet.
We should have put in some futures. Who would you bet on to win it all right now? Do you have if I give you the numbers, who would you take?
Depends on the numbers. Obviously, I'd probably say the Bills with my value on that. As a Bills fan, I'm not
7-1.
This is a real change for RJ.
Yeah,
now he's a Bill. Let's tell the audience, RJ is a lifelong Bills fan.
Very pessimistic Bills fan, typically.
What?
Very pessimistic Bills fan, typically. I'm always waiting for it to go wrong.
But now you're
This
optimistic.
season, they're trashing the Patriots. I mean, they're closing the season well. They're winning every single game they should, except for like Hail Murray and the COVID thing, like you said. Number 1 team in DVOA. I think they could play with the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to go in and beat the Chiefs. I'm not going to predict that right away. But that line shouldn't be any more than 3 or 4 the way they're playing in Kansas City. So I give them a real shot against Kansas City if they get there. I think they're a more complete team than the teams on the NFC.
And I was on with Steve Tasker today up in Buffalo, and he asked me if I was taking a victory lap about Josh Allen, and I said no. I go, but I will say this. Here's my great fear: is we finally get Buffalo and Josh Allen to play the Chiefs in Arrowhead for the championship, and the wind blows at like 40 miles an hour.
Why is that your fear?
And you know what he said? He said, I think it would be like that Rams-Chiefs game from Monday night a couple years ago, which would be fantastic to watch.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's your fear because you don't want to lose out on like the awesome offense with 40?
I want to see quarterbacks throw it around. I want to see fun.
I think you've said in the past, like with Josh Allen and his arm, I don't think it matters how much the wind is blowing.
45 it might. And Mr. Mahomes has a big arm too, you know.
That sounded like the PDP, Dickie V. You're like, Mr. Mahomes, he's got a big arm too, baby. The Chiefs are less than 2-1 to win the Super Bowl, which is just you can't bet that price. I mean,
what are the Bills?
7-1 for the Bills.
And what are the Rams?
The Rams are 28-1.
There's your bet. If you're going to try and go on a long shot, but I'm with RJ. If of all those numbers, I'd take Buffalo.
Wow. All right. So are you at all worried that the hype's out of control? Like everybody, like Jonathan Jones wrote a column for CBS. Like, there's why the Bills are the team to beat. Everybody's texting me. They're like, oh, the Bills are going to win it all, aren't they? The Bills are going to win it all. Everybody thinks the Bills are winning it all.
The most pessimistic Bills fan comes around, they're legitimate. Because I've sat in that room with him for 5 years, and he is a very pessimistic Bills fan.
Pete, are you worried that you didn't pick the Bills to win it all before the season? Because you almost did. I tried to talk you into it.
Yeah, but I mean, I almost did. Look, I said a year and a half ago that they would be the champion in the division, even if Tom Brady came back, and I firmly still believe that would have been the case. So
on this podcast, yeah,
I did.
You nailed it. Yeah.
I love their team, and I love Sean McDermott. I think he's a great coach. And Brian Dable, enjoy him in Buffalo because he ain't going to be there. He's going to be with the Chargers next year.
What about who's coaching Houston?
I think he's going to the Chargers because him and Telesco are buddies, really good friends.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
They were roommates.
They were roommates?
At one point, they were roommates, yeah.
Would have been helpful before I bet on Dable to go to the Texans. Who's coaching the Texans then?
That's a good question because it's not Josh McDaniels.
It's not Joe Brady, is it?
I mean, they
Matt
need somebody
Patricia.
like that. You need somebody like that. The problem is can they hire? The reason I don't think it's going to be Dave also has links to the Belichick tree too.
Sure.
They failed with the Belichick tree with O'Brien, so maybe they want to go in a different direction with the coach. So
that's true. That's fair.
The enemy.
The enemy was drafted by the Chargers too. I didn't realize.
I would. Teams should go after Arthur Smith. That's the one.
I agree. Okay, back
Robert
to
Saleh. That's the one I want. Is Robert?
Love
Saleh.
Robert Saleh.
If I had a opening on my team, that's the guy I'm campaigning for because you see how much that defense plays.
Yeah,
for
but
him
RJ,
and
this is the question for Robert Saleh. What's your offense and who's running it? And from what I understand, it's going to be LaFleur's brother, and it's going to be the 49ers offense. So that works. I get it. Mike McDaniel's another guy on that staff that's a smart, bright guy. I get it. But that's the question because if you're Jacksonville and you interview Robert Saleh, he worked there. It makes sense. But what's your offense? You're going to have Trevor Lawrence. I
mean, you ask that question anytime you have a defensive coach. You ask that,
but
you could ask that question
for
about
defense
McDermott.
coaches with a young quarterback, it's more of a question, I think, than it would be normally.
And I can't remember who pointed this out the other day, but I think it's kind of interesting. If you hire a defensive coach, like if you hire an offensive coach, he's just going to be there and run his offense over and over. If you hire a defensive coach, like somebody's going to poach your offensive coordinator. Maybe it was JLC who wrote that, but like there's a good chance if your offense is good, your team's really good, somebody's going to poach your offensive coordinator. So maybe teams are a little, I don't know if they're hesitant to do it, but it's just something to think about. Saleh, by the way,
good coaches out there now.
On an offshore spot, he is minus 250 to go to the Lions.
Who is?
Saleh to the Lions, minus 250.
Yeah, but he's from the Detroit area. I think that has something to do with it too.
That same site took the Texans job off the board. Joe Brady, the current favorite, 2-1. Dable 5-1, and then somebody else. Maybe McDaniels was like 8-1.
Is Urban Meyer still the favorite in Jacksonville?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure though.
I heard the other day, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, that some of the people in Jacksonville were saying this. I don't know, but that he might be using that to try and get the Chargers job, but I don't think he's going to get the Chargers job.
Interesting.
Because he's always had an eye on USC because he wanted the LA market and stuff, but so I don't know.
Well, once we have to do a little coaching gossip podcast, Pete. We'll have you on. We'll have to do that and bring it back for it. Any props in this last game before we recap what we've got going on here?
No, there wasn't anything posted, so I couldn't give.
All right, with all the COVID stuff. That's right. Okay, so Pete, look at Pete extending the podcast, reminding people that you are the true grinder, the star of this network, the star of this site.
Shut up, Brinson.
Pete's best bets. Oh, no, sorry, not best bets. So they're your best bets. How you're spending your money. You got 5 bets. Simple man, lunch pail guy. $20 on the Rams-Seahawks under. $20 on a Rams-Washington teaser. $20 on the Bears plus 10. $20 on the Ravens -3, and $20 on the Steelers -6. I like all those.
I'll be busted by the end of the weekend.
You might be plus 100 by the end of the week. Those are all good. RJ has the Bills alternate team total. I love this. Pete's got 5 very straightforward bets, and RJ comes out with an alternate team total bet. He has the Bills alternate team total over 30 plus 105, 20 to win 21. Russell Wilson under 1.5 pass touchdowns plus 110. As you can see, RJ very much a plus EV better. I am not. RJ is a plus EV. I'll lay like 165 on a prop. RJ is looking for plus EV. Is under Russell Wilson pass touchdowns 1.5. Under Ronald Jones receiving yards 10.5. That's minus 115 at William Hill. 23 to win 20. Baltimore -3.5 plus 100, 25 to win 25. Pittsburgh -6, 20. He's got $20 on that. Kenny has the Colts plus 6.5 for 20. Steelers under 47.5 for 20. The Titans plus 3.5 for 30, and the Rams under 42.5 for 20. Kenny actually left $10 on the table. I don't think y'all did that, right?
Nope.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. He might be up. It might be 10-0-0-0 by the end of the week. Who knows?
You want to bet that? I'll bet you 50 that doesn't happen.
I'm sorry. I was wrong. Kenny has a $10 teaser too. I'm an idiot. I missed that.
I was going to say, I was going to go, Brinson, I'll bet you 50 that doesn't happen, but then of course you never pay anyway. So what's the difference?
Put it on Underhill. Put it on my tab. Buccaneers -2. Steelers. Sign up for Venmo. I'll send you the money.
No, I'm not doing that.
Oh, you mean mail you a check? It's 2021.
No, I'll get you Venmo.
You get Venmo, I'll send you the money. Or
I bet you it's more fun to have you not send it to me.
You got 0% interest, just you enjoy it. Bucks -2, and the Steelers is a pick. Is Kenny's $10 teaser there? That's pretty good too. And I have the Rams-Seahawks under 42.5 for 10. Washington Tampa Bay under 45 for 10. Ravens Titans over 54.5 for 30. New Orleans Chicago under for 25. A $5 Colts Washington money line parlay that pays out 14 to 1, I think, or just under 15 to 1, and $20 on Lamar Jackson over rush yards 70.5.
By the way, now that we're in a new year, the Shylock rules go in place. So every Friday you got to pay me 100% interest of what you owe me, and then it compounds every Friday. So there you go.
Okay, we'll on future podcasts we may do some we'll do some chats. So if you want to hop on and leave questions, ask us anything, we'll do that. But for right now, we're going to end it because we ran long. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out with us. Great job on the best bets as always, guys. Let's stay hot in the playoffs, and we'll talk to you next week.